All right, y'all. Proverbs 7. What does Proverbs 7 mean? As in his previous lesson, Solomon begins Proverbs 7 with a plea to his son, which may also be a reference to students. His request is that they pay close attention to his instructions and value his counsel highly. He commands valuing wisdom the way a man ought to cherish his own sister. This parallels other depictions of wisdom as a woman in this book, Proverbs 1:20 through 21, Proverbs 4:7 through 9, and then Proverbs 8:1 through 3. The passage makes yet another reference to adultery and warns about the adulteress. While the literal language cautions a man about a predatory woman, the principles apply to both sexes. Adultery is a common metaphor for all sin as something which is tempting but leads to ruin. Proverbs 7 1 through 5. Solomon's wisdom is based not only in God given insight but also in experience. The tale he relates in the rest of this chapter is one he claims to have seen from his own window. Most likely, this is a summation of many such events which Solomon observed during his lifetime. Those who lack sense are more easily led astray. Likewise, those who fall to temptation often do so because they make unwise decisions. Okay, now that's a read. Proverbs 7 6 through 7. The woman depicted here is aggressive and stalks the young man like a predator. She applies seductive clothing, surprise, flattery, boldness, and the promise of consequence-free sex. Using deliberate tactics, she wins the young man over and convinces him to engage in sin. These strategies are not only literal when it comes to sexual temptation, they also echo in various ways other temptation presents themselves. Being warned of such dangers helps us recognize and avoid them. Proverbs 7 8 through 21. Succumbing to the adulterous tricks, the reckless youth falls into the trap. The livestock being led to slaughter or a wild animal being snared by a hunter. Solomon warns his sons and by extension all men and women that yield to evil temptation leads inevitably to death. Proverbs 7:22 through 27. Ooh, that's good. All right, so in Proverbs 5 and 6, Solomon warns against his son against adultery. He describes the evil woman, the adulteress, as a depictive and dangerous. While this is valid in a literal sense, it also serves as a general warning about the seductive nature of sin. In this chapter, he continues his counsel about adultery, stressing the tactics used in temptation and how falling to them leads to death. The following chapter returns to the personification of wisdom as a woman begging to be honored. Okay, now. So the breakdown part 2. Proverbs 7 uses a cautionary tale of a young man's encounter with a seductive woman to illustrate the dangers of succumbing to temptation and the importance of embracing wisdom and God's teaching as a defense against immorality. It highlights the seductive allure of sin and the destructive consequences of yielding to it. It emphasizes that true security and well-being comes from adhering to God's wisdom and avoiding the paths of destruction. All right. So, the key things and interpretations breakdown. Wisdom as protection. This chapter begins with a father urging his son to internalize wisdom and God's commands, likening them two precious possessions that will protect him from the snares of temptation. The seductress. Proverbs 7 depicts a young man described as naive and lacking understanding, being lured by seductive women who uses flattery, bold advances, and promises of pleasure to entice him. Consequences of sin. The story emphasizes the devastating consequences of succumbing to temptation, with the young man likened to an ox going to the slaughter, a fool being led to punishment, and a bird being trapped in a snare. The importance of discernment. This chapter underscores the need for young men to be discerning and cautious, recognizing the dangers of seductive words and actions, and actively choosing to walk in the path of wisdom. Contrast between wisdom and folly. Proverbs 7 contrasts the destructive path of the young man who ignores wisdom with the path of righteousness and safety that comes from embracing God's teaching. Application to all. While the story specifically addresses a young man, the principles of Proverbs 7 are applicable to everyone, highlighting the universal need for wisdom and discernment in navigating life's temptations. So, in essence, Proverbs 7 serves as a powerful reminder that wisdom is not merely an abstract concept, but a practical guide to navigating life's challenges and avoiding the pitfall of sin and temptation. Wow, that's really good. That's really good. But alright, y'all, that's all I have for Proverbs chapter 7. And I'll see you tomorrow with Proverbs chapter 8, y'all. Have a good one. Bye.